I always say this, Aaron. I hope that people don't hear my story and then say, well, my story's not as bad as his. We all have, I mean, you know this as well as anybody, dude. We all have our own journey. So I grew up in Indianapolis in the 80s. My mother was a drug addict and alcoholic. She actually cut off my right index finger when I was only 4 years old. She married my stepfather, who was this incredibly abusive guy, 6'4", 220, would beat me and my little brothers up. Like literally, he's such a coward of a man. And we spent most of our childhood homeless and deeply in poverty. I lived with over 30 families between the time I was 8 to 12. And when I was 12, I was living in an abandoned house. My mother had disappeared. We come to find out she had randomly moved to Florida and married some guy. um Wild. And then I was living in this abandoned house. My grandmother found out and came and adopted me. Now, Aaron, in some sense that is a godsend, right? But I am biracial. I am black and white, and my grandmother was an old racist white lady from a town in Tennessee you never heard of. So you could imagine the identity crisis that I was stepping into, right? And I started getting high every day, smoking weed, popping pills. By 13, I was getting drunk every day, and I got kicked out of two high schools. Eventually, did not graduate. Effectively, they handed me the diploma, and my summer school teacher literally says to me, "We are done with you. It's obvious you don't want to be here. We'll let the streets figure you out." And I, at that time, I was lost, like most kids are anyway, because when you're 16, 17, 18, you have no idea what reality is. And then I had this on top of it. And the only thing that I had wanted to do was to go and be a Marine Corps scout sniper. I blame Tom Berenger for that. There was a movie called Sniper that I was obsessed with as a kid. I literally have seen that movie 100 times. But I have asthma, and I had destroyed my knee my senior year of high school wrestling, and so they wouldn't let me in. And I didn't know what to do with my life. And so at 18, after not getting in the military, getting kicked out of high school again, and getting fired from a warehouse job, I sat in my car one night and I just started asking myself, like, dude, what the hell? What are you doing here? You need a plan. And at that point, Aaron, I never had a mentor. I never had a guide. I had a couple of coaches. Obviously, I played sports, but I never had a man to sit down with me and square my shit away, right? And so I made this decision. I was like, I have to make 100 grand a year. That was the goal. I was like, I need to make 100 grand a year legally by the time I'm 21. And the legal part was very important because I have family literally in prison for life to this day. My three childhood best friends have been murdered, and I have been in handcuffs more times than I can count. And so, like, I knew the path, and I needed it to interrupt it. And so skills have utility. Started learning skills, started growing in business, landed in a management position of a fast food place when I was 18 and a half. Dude, I was making $36,000 a year at 18, almost 20 years ago. That's like $1 million back then. That wasn't enough. That wasn't my goal. My goal is 100 grand a year. I ended up landing a job at a Fortune 10 company doing sales for a company everyone in America has heard of. I made my first six figures the year I turned 21. And by the time I was 26, I had completely destroyed my entire life. I was 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep, cheating on my girlfriend, high from the moment I woke up till I went to bed. My little brother tells me, "Do not talk to me. You are not my brother." I'm $50,000 in debt, and my car got repoed twice. And so I chased this idea, but the thing that I hadn't done I didn't realize that dreams without clarity will destroy your life. And so at 26, I was at rock bottom, and I just started doing the work. I just went to war with myself. I invested every penny I didn't have because I was 50 grand in debt into myself. And I just pulled myself out of obesity, out of addiction, out of chaos. I left Indiana, moved to Oregon, worked with the one of the best childhood trauma therapists in the world. And, 15 years later, bro, here I am. Almost 15. We're getting there.
There's so much there, but that's an awful place to start from. You're you were getting it from every direction: mental, physical, the abuse. But it seemed like you caught a glimpse of what could be. But how did you even change your perspective, that paradigm? I mean, your entire childhood, that was your world. You're being told that that's all you're going to be, and this is all that was available to you. How did you figure out that you didn't have to live by you didn't have to put hand your dough?
I I think there are probably three factors. One, I am a contrarian by nature. I hate being told what to do. Like this is why I can't work for people. This is why I'm an entrepreneur, because I literally hate being told what to do. Um, I have always been that way.
That would have been difficult to be in the Marines then, I think.
Yeah. Well, but that's part of the reason why I needed to. Because I was JROTC, Army, and Navy growing up between the two high schools I went to. And I really thrived when I was in those places. So, it seems counterintuitive, but it felt like the thing that was going to like free me from the chaos of my own life. But you're spot on, and no one's actually ever made that acknowledgement. So that's a beautiful acknowledgement. But that was one. I'm a contrarian. Two, being a homeless child sleeping in vans or halfway houses or women's shelters or any of the random families that we stayed with or my own relatives or friends of friends of friends. I mean, you never knew, right? But I was exposed to a different kind of life. I saw so many families that had love and compassion, and they didn't yell at each other, and they didn't beat their kids, and there was food on the table and electricity. And so being exposure, right? It was exposure that helped me understand, like, oh wait, there's something different here. Now at that age I didn't understand it, right? It would take me still a long time to recognize that. And then the third thing, I have always just felt that if I put my mind to something, I could do it. And I remember I think I was 13. My mother had come back from Florida and her random marriage, and she was actually sober for probably the first time I ever remember her being sober. And she took me and my brothers to the dollar movie. If you remember back in the day, you can go to the movies for $1. And I mean, that was like a big deal because we never got to do stuff like that. And we went to see The Matrix. And Aaron, this is a completely true story. I remember sitting there watching that movie in the dollar theater with my mother and my two little brothers, and I was like, we are in the Matrix. This is where we live. This is the reality of the life that we have. And and even to this day, I still believe it. It's like, I firmly believe that if you can just get mentorship, if you can make your mind up about something, if you can put yourself in a position of challenging the narrative of who you believe you are, if you can go hard, dude, it's so much of it is like go until you can't go anymore. Show up until it shows up. And I saw that in that film. And so those things, while now I can look at that in retrospect and understand it deeper, but at 18 and 19 and 20, 21 when I was just trying to figure it out. And then again, even at 25 when I was just trying to figure it out. And now at almost 39, trying to figure it out. I just have always really had this sense of belief in myself.